A Build Hatch developed production.
Hello, I'm Aaron Kyle and welcome to another episode of Build Hatch. On this week's episode of Build Hatch, I had the opportunity to sit down with our first plasterer on our show. It is always nice to hear a finishing trades perspective, and this week was certainly a nice, entertaining chat with a third generational plasterer, James from Somerville Plaster. This was a really sincere chat, and we talked about the finishing trade of applying plaster to all kinds of construction and the challenges associated with transforming spaces and a behind-the-scenes look into the plastering world. So let's get into it. James from Somerville Plaster, welcome to Build Hatch.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
That's okay. Now I'm looking forward to this one. So you're our first plasterer on Build Hatch. So it's always good to get another perspective from all the different trades. Like all, I guess, James, we always like to take it back to the beginning. So what was your childhood like growing up?
So I grew up in Somerville, hence the name Somerville Plaster. Dad was a surfer, loved going to the beach. All our holidays were always at the beach or close to. We had a really, really good childhood, nice house out in Somerville. And then down the track, we moved here to Mornington because we were at school here in Mornington and Mum and Dad was sick of driving from Somerville, Mornington, every Saturday, Sunday, drop the kids off.
It's a great part of the world. So for those that are listening, we're recording this in Mornington, which is down on the beautiful Mornington Peninsula in south of Melbourne, which is a great bayside part of the world to live. Nice little coastal environment, good surf, and really nice place to come to and grow up in, especially.
Yeah, and, we have the best weekends down here. Wherever you are, you can, you're 5 minutes within the beach, go for a swim at night, walk home, and, it's like a constant holiday living on the coast.
And it's still within reach of Melbourne too, isn't it? So you can commute, you can work in the city, you can still have jobs in Melbourne, and, just straight up and down the freeway.
That's it.
So what's a typical day in the life of James and Somerville Plaster look like?
Typical day would be, the alarm goes off at 5, get ready for work, do all my things that I need to do in the morning, wherever I need to be, if it's a meeting or on-site meeting a truck, or meeting the boys on a new build or something like that. I've got to be there at 7, so generally leave home by 6. A lot of our work's in Toorak, the city area, or Sorrento, so generally about an hour drive most mornings. Yeah.
So what was school life like growing up? Were you always going to be a tradie or were you looking at university? What were you thinking?
I always thought I'd end up in the trade. Probably wanted to be in the family business. From a young age, it's all we kind of knew. Dad was a plasterer, really hard worker. Yeah, I always did think I'd be into the trade. I did the school-based work from in year 10. So I think we did one day down in Dramana and then some work experience.
So you basically were able to combine like the later parts of school with trade, basically, like get work experience off site?
Yeah, well, in year 10 and 11, you have to choose all your subjects. I took all the wood class, the sports, ceramics.
to fill one in?
Yeah, it was science or ceramics. So, yeah, and we always knew that I was going to go into the trade. So at the end of year 11, I did enroll for year 12, but then got maybe a summer job with a local carpenter, and that led straight into an apprenticeship, actually. So I was a carpenter for 5 years before I was a plasterer.
So was that intentional? Like, because your grandfather was a plasterer, your dad, he's a plasterer.
Yep.
So was that intentional to do something a bit different?
Yeah, possibly. I've got 2 brothers as well, and I think Mum and Dad always thought, one be a carpenter, one be a plumber, maybe one electrician or another plasterer.
Or a painter.
Or a painter or anything, just so down the track that you might all be able to work together on something. Dad was doing a house in Carrum for a builder that was looking for a labourer. So early January, I went and did some labouring for a carpenter. And that led into an apprenticeship. So I did 4 years with those guys, mainly specialising in like decks and pergolas and some maintenance work up in, the high end of town. And then I was qualified with them for a year, but working on weekends and that with Dad, helping, hang some plaster, or if my boss was quiet, maybe for a few days, which happens sometimes, I would help and just jump in with Dad's crew and help him hang some plaster. And I just started to love it. Just love that plaster, and I love the family business.
The one thing about plastering that I notice is the guys that do it and they love it, it's a very team environment, isn't it?
Has to be.
Yeah. And it's production based. Like it's go. Like they work fast.
I put 2 guys on a site sometimes, and it's a job. Like we hang 6 metre sheets. You ain't hanging 6 metre sheets with 1 or 2 blokes. So it is one of those trades where you need, I think 4 or 5 to be productive. So yeah.
How do you measure that? Like how do you work out whether this job should be say 4 or 3 or 5 or 6? Like how do you sort of, is it experienced or is there like a calculation? If
I've got the guys available, like we run between 12 and 15 guys and we're doing a hanging job, I must say later down the track we do sub a lot of our hanging out to some crews, some really, really good crews, guys that we trust and guys that are, crews that our builders are really happy to use. It just takes the hanging side, takes it off our hands. We don't have to worry about hanging. It's all kind of meterage rate, so I know exactly what it's going to cost. So when we're quoting jobs, I know how much that job's going to be to hang. If I had it all on hourly and my boys, it might blow out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's probably the easiest part of our trade is the hanging because I've got the crews on meter rate. I know exactly what I'm going to be up for.
So for people that are listening to this who don't know about the plastering world or privy to how the plastering works in construction, can you explain what a hanger does and what a finisher is, which is predominantly your trade?
Yeah. So we have, like I said before, 12 to 15 guys that can do everything, but you know what it's like. They specialise maybe in, trailing the plaster or maybe hanging the plaster. So at the start of the job, we walk in and we'll have a meeting with the site manager, whoever he is, wherever he is, go through some ceiling heights, set up some datums, put all the ceiling grid up, depending on the job, how long that takes. And then the insulation guys will come in. So I always say to the builders, we'll probably be here for 3 or 4 days. And they say, we want to hang, maybe on Tuesday. I said, well, I'm going to go away for 2 days. You tidy up all your loose ends. You need to insulate anyway. So then we'll come back with our crew. I'll probably do the delivery the day before, probably meet that truck there, make sure everything goes good, or even help with the pass-up. We pay for assisted pass-ups most of the time because they're not too expensive. And if I was to send some of my guys there, they might have to go to Brighton, then they might not get to Malvern until 9 o'clock, I've lost a few hours.
So that's predominantly manual labour, essentially, where truck arrives with the chip rock on board and then hand deliver it or hire it off the truck where you can and then pass it up.
And they're faster than us. They're doing it every day. And another thing, I know how much it's going to cost. I know exactly what that meter rate is going to be to get all that plaster up to the second level. It might cost me $800. But if I have 5 guys there and it takes till half during the day, it might blow out to $1,000. So just taking those bits and pieces out that I don't have to worry about when I'm quoting a job. All the variables.
Yeah.
So when I'm quoting the job, I know exactly what I'm up for. It can't blow out.
I like that because you've obviously recognised that, look, we should stick to what we know, and that is that skilled element. Not to say that hanging's not skilled, but stick to that skilled element of the sheets are already up on the ceiling or on the wall and we'll finish it off. Not labouring as in delivering and manhandling.
Yeah, just taking the stuff out of our job that we don't really need to do. The stuff that other companies can help us with, at a fixed price.
All right, so back to you'd finished your apprenticeship. So you'd been working sort of in carpentry, decided to come back to the family business. So what was it like working for your old man? Like, because it can have its perks, obviously, being a family business, but also working in a family business is tough. And it takes a lot of adapting and emotional intelligence and thinking outside the square and tolerating things, as well as growing as a young adult as well. So so is that tough?
Yes and no. I do feel like I got away with a little bit, but then there'd be a lot of guys that say, "Oh, you're getting the easy job today because you're Ronnie's son." So that's a little bit annoying, but you got to cop that. That's fine. But we're all living together. So what do you think we're talking about at dinner? Plaster. You know, mum's in the office. What do you think? Plaster. Do you know what I mean? But that's all we know, kind of thing. It's not all we know, but we love it.
It's part of your life.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, we're all plasterers. My younger brother, Jordan, he's a plasterer. My other brother, Jack, he's a plumber. But a lot of the conversations at home were about plaster.
So what was that like? Did you sort of start to get a bit of inspiration to do things a little different, or how did you sort of evolve from that?
I always watched Dad, how he ran his company. And you walk into the street, I would walk into a plaster shop when I was a little bit younger, and everyone would always, you know, hey, you're Ronnie's son. They'd see my sign writing. Oh, he is the best bloke. He's just so genuine, and that's why he's just been such a great mentor to me. He just gets along with everyone. All the builders love him.
So what was there added pressure with that? Like, you know, oh, yeah, he's a great guy, you know?
Yeah, no, it probably only inspired me to be, you know, a great guy as well. Like I kind of wanted everyone, you know, maybe in 20 years, I want people to grab my son and go, you know, oh, James, you know, really, really good plasterer, run a really good crew. You know, it was really, really easy to deal with. That's what you want, don't you?
Absolutely, and I love it because it just shows that family values, the importance of family values, and how they come out into your, not just your own children and your extended family, but also your business and the values that you share. And I mean, some people from an outsider looking in, they might think, well, we're talking about your trade every night, but that's the difference. When you're passionate and committed and you're involved in your particular craft or your business or your trade, whatever it might be, it could be any job. If you're invested into it, it doesn't feel like a chore talking about it at the dinner table, does it? It's part of your upbringing and part of your life and what you do every day. It's part of life.
Yeah, and especially now, like, this might sound crazy, and there's that quote out there that I think it's, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life.
Yeah, and you never feel that it's a chore. It's part of you just enjoy doing it.
It's definitely not a chore what we do. I never ever wake up and go, oh, I don't want to go to work today. I love what we do, and you know, the smile on people's faces that we provide with the job that we do, and the clients, they walk in, they go, amazing. You know, you've transformed this house. It's really funny what plaster does to a building site, because it's a frame. Before we're there, it's just a frame. It's you know, all the rough ends of that. The pipes are in the wall, the insulation. Once the plaster goes on, kind of the hard work's done. You know, it's all wrapped up. So and then clients will walk in and go, oh, it looks like a house.
Yeah, look, it's the one trade that just changes the whole landscape, the whole feel. It's until you put those sheets on, you're always, as a client and a builder, you're always second guessing, going, is this room big enough?
Yep.
How's this space going to look?
Yep. Yeah, and it's a bit of a you know, a gift that we can provide sometimes. When you make it look like a house in a day sometimes. So one morning the client might walk in, there's studs everywhere, there's insulation blowing, you know, the plumber's still working down there. And then he walks in at the end of the day and all the plaster sheets are up and, oh yeah, there's my bedroom. There's my wine cellar. How good's this?
Yeah, totally true. Being part of a family business, is there a moment in time where you thought, I want to do something slightly different to what my dad was doing?
I just remember feeling maybe 3 or 4 years ago, like I know that, you know, mum and dad don't want to run this business forever. I thought, you know, if Ronnie was to leave, would his builders leave as well? So I thought maybe it's probably time I started, you know, creating some contacts, start my own networking system, try to get a couple of my own builders, have all those builders flow through Somerville Plaster, but have those relationships built so that when Ron did decide to walk off into the distance, which I never think he will, he loves it, and I think he always wants to, you know, still be involved. But yeah, just to start to create some contacts. So I thought, I was sitting on Instagram one day and about 3.5, or maybe even 4 years ago. I just seen a builder, put some photos up, and then I read the comments, and people were just loving it. Oh, how good's that? Probably Instagram back then, it was just there were sunsets and all that. But then oh, how good's this? I'm seeing someone's house being built. So I made a Somerville Plaster account, and I had taken some photos in the past, and I just uploaded a couple of them, and then all of a sudden, it just started generating so many inquiries. And I think I reckon about, if you speak to most people that have a large following on Instagram, they probably started 3 or 4 years ago, and then there was probably a year when just everyone was jumping on it, and then
so you're in those early
possibly
early stages of it.
Yeah.
So what did you do? How did you go about it? To go out and create your own sort of contacts to bring in house? How did you go about that? So
any new inquiries that come, if they ring me, I will kind of look after them. If they ring Dad will look after them. But we're still the same team, So and he'll look at my jobs every morning, and I'll look at all his jobs every morning. So, but if the inquiry comes in, then I'll probably be that point of contact for him. But going back to Instagram, I reckon 80% of our work we're doing this week or in the next 6 months are people that I've met through Instagram. I tell everyone, and I've got some mates who are all starting, their businesses now. I've got a plumber mate. My brother's a plumber. He's just started his Instagram account. And I just said, just take the photos and put them up. Who cares? Or do a story. Who cares? It's not embarrassing or anything like that. It's just showing what you do well to the world. And it can go anywhere. You could be in America and people are looking at my photos. I've got followers from, Canada and that. They call it drywalling over there.
Yes.
But they just, I get heaps of comments about, how do you guys do it over there? Or private DMs. Oh, yeah, that looks really cool. We do it a bit different over here. Yeah, it's awesome.
And shout out to the Canadians too, because there's a lot of them, and I'm the same. And it's amazing. You never know where it goes. This morning I was up early before dawn doing a live presentation in Canada for a construction group over there, and they're good guys, and they reach out and they've offered friendly advice and pointers, and they've given guest pats on the back and things like that. So it's that real positive vibe.
Yeah, and we only put the good photos up. We don't put the stuff up that goes wrong. Not that ever happens, but
So was there a point in time when you sort of did that? You just started toying with that and putting stuff online. Was there a critical point? Because there are people listening to this who, just like your brother and your friends, who are contemplating, I want to go out next week or 3 months, whatever it might be finished the year out, but I want to start my own family business. I want what James has, where I can create something for my future children. Is there a moment in time when you're just sort of plugging away at that and the momentum changed?
When I was doing it, I was just putting up, fence hoarding that was out the front of projects. We have signs that I put on most of the and I'd just say new project. Everyone, click, 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 click. And then, I'd put some photos of some finished product, and then these builders would call you straight away going, it's amazing. Can you do that for me? I've got an exact same project. I've got the exact same curved wall. I need you on that project. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's a way of putting your work already out there.
Yeah, yeah.
To, instead of waiting for the inquiries in, you're actually putting it out there in their face to be able to go, wow, this is exactly what I need. I need that guy. So you've changed the relationship. It's not just a phone call to say, oh, do you do plastering? Do you do this kind of plastering? They already know, they're aware of what you do, so they're going specifically after you, targeting you. And
I get inquiries all the time, or builders that ring me up. And they say, oh, we've been watching you for, a year now. We love what you do. All your stuff looks so neat. You need to come quote our work, or you need to do our work. So it's just crazy what Instagram has done to our company, and probably to the whole, industry a little bit. Everybody that I speak to now is, oh yeah, did you see when that builder down the road did that really cool light in his ceiling and all that? Everyone knows what everyone's doing, which is there's probably positive and negatives. And there's some builders that, don't want all their stuff on Instagram, but I think it's just showcasing what you do well, and it's for free. I just don't understand why more people aren't on that platform, because it's free marketing. I just thought, what's everybody doing? And I only post, and no one ever told me this, I just kind of worked it out. When's everyone looking at their phone? Probably about 6 o'clock after dinner, 7 o'clock at dinner. Everyone's sitting on their phone. If they're watching TV and the ad comes on, what do? They pick up their phone. What's the first thing they see? Somerville Plaster's new curved wall. And then just the inquiries that come like that, you're in their face. They can't miss you.
All right, so what about outside of work? What do you like to do?
Me and my partner have just bought a new house, so that's full on at the moment to move everything in. We did a development about 2 years ago, built a house in Mount Eliza, and then went and moved back in with Ronnie, and then sponged off him for another year, and then just been looking for another house to buy and build, but it just hasn't happened. So we just found something little tie us over for now, and then that might turn into a rental property. But other than that, anything to do with the beach or a board, surfing, skateboard, snowboard, and just catch up with your mates. That's what it's all about for me most of the time. Get to the end of the week. I work most Saturdays, so just catch up with all the boys on Saturday afternoon and a few beers.
You guys are one of the finishing trades, so you're coming into a job. What about when framing isn't quite right, and what are some of the challenges that if I'm a builder and I'm wanting to do a little bit better of a job to make it ready for you guys, what are some of the tips and tricks? It's
a little bit funny that you asked that, because probably what I provide a little bit different. I don't know what other guys do, but
they just hand over the timber studs ready to go for you.
But I will always walk when I know that if they want to do a hang on a Friday, I'll walk through the job on a Tuesday or Wednesday with a straight edge. And I don't want to pick on anyone's work, but I kind of doing that carpentry for 5 years, it's kind of given me two skill sets, and all the details that these architects are drawing at the moment, P50, everything has to line up. So there's no point in me putting plaster on and then, maybe 2 weeks later, or even when they've started painting, finding out that there's an issue. I want to find it before we hang it. So that's a point of difference that I do. I just go through all the jobs and make sure that all the carpentry's,
straight. Simple. Just straight.
All these jobs you just got to hit these details now. Like all the window, everything's flush. All the plaster wants to butt into these windows. It wants to be dead flush. The skirting's got to be dead flush. If your stud's 2 mil back, my bead's got to be 2 mil back from the skirt. The architect's got to pick it. It's just one of those things that I do a little bit different.
Do you think it's like the cause of that's more around lack of supervision with trades, or is it more just not knowing? Or like if your chippies finish, say today being Friday,
yeah,
it's no use getting your plaster in Monday, is it? Like no. You sort of probably do it as part of your service anyway, but going to site and having a bit of a look a few days out to avoid these delays and not being able to work.
Yeah, like I said, I always want to deliver my plaster maybe 2 or 3 days before we get to hang, just so I know everything's there. I'm not relying on a truck. I'm not relying on people, being late. So I'll make sure that the plaster's already there, and then I'll just have a quick look over everything, make sure that our work, our ceiling battens, that's all been done right. And then while I'm there, I'll have a look just to see if I can see anything else. And generally, they will love if I point something out. Sometimes not, because they think I'm picking on their work, but we need to do it now. And it's not a big detail. It might be just it might be 5 minutes work of just packing this out, because we know that skirting's got to line up better with that other skirting or that window if we do it now. What's
your favourite part of being a plasterer or running a plastering business?
I do like the hustle and bustle of actual business, winning of the quotes. You get these tenders sent to you, or these plans sent to you, and sometimes it'll be a 3 or 4 week process to get that quote out, and then them do their due diligence and check another quote. So once that quote gets accepted, it's pats on the back all around.
Yeah, it's
in our
definitely an
office.
exciting part of the job, isn't it?
Yeah, because it has to be for our office because they've got to achieve something. Do you know what I mean? Like they want the win as well. You know, they've won the work. They've done the hard yards. They've printed everything off, double checked everything. You know, and then to get that quote accepted, it's a great achievement.
Talking about estimating and quantifying things, like what is involved in the process of estimating plaster?
Yeah. Well, back in the day, I don't know how Ronnie used to do it, but probably similar to how he probably still does it. Print off the plan as big as you can and then start yelling out sheets to mum who's on the Excel spreadsheet. So he'll just sit there and he'll look at the room and he'll go 248s, 236s, 224 by 1200s, and then Karen's just putting it all into Excel spreadsheet. A change we made late last year was to put on a full-time estimator, just to take that other one thing away from us having to do it and just outsource it. Not outsource it because he's in-house, but not have to worry about it as much. Nothing worse than when I'm, in the morning having, put out all these spot fires of all these jobs and then somebody rings, goes, oh, you should have that quote in, yesterday because I need to enter it into my tender. And I go, oh, I've been flat out. I'm sorry. But now we've got someone in-house. I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's done. It's done a week in advance of when it needed to be in. So it's just another one of those things. But our estimator just uses a program, just a simple. When I say simple, it wouldn't be simple to me, but it's just a takeoff system and cancellineal meters for skirtings and window reviewers and all that, and then just square meters in ceilings and walls.
Yeah, so it kind of quantifies it,
Yeah.
and then you're then able to implement your rates and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, you can put all your rates in, but generally, what happens, we're still a little bit going into the old school, still using Excel. John, our estimator, he'll have it all in his Bluebeam system that he uses, but then we'll still enter it into our old system just so it's there and just so it's easy for me to read. it's what I'm used to.
But also, too, it probably gives you a bit of a health check as well.
Yeah, you double check it. You're pretty much doing it twice, so less mistakes.
That's right. Yeah, it's a valid exercise.
Yeah. So generally, Ron and I will be back in the office by 1 o'clock after we've checked on all our sites. I'm generally got about 6 sites running, and so does Dad. So make it a massive, massive focus to get to every job every day. Just to check in, spend half an hour there, go over all those little details again, make sure all the boys have got enough material for the next 3 or 4 days in case I can't get there to the next one. So it's just, and then when we get back here at 1 o'clock, Karen and John have got all these quotes that are ready to send off but want us to double check and just check about the rates. Is that builder, is he maybe a little bit fussier that our rates might have to go up $1 or $2 because I know there's going to be, maybe a bit of a hold up possibly, or is he going to pick on absolutely everything that I probably needed, maybe another, a couple $100.
Yeah, just to allow that.
Yeah,
that
just to
extra
allow that.
hours.
Yeah. But generally, most of our stuff's just a basic square meter rate.
So for anyone listening to this and they're a trade and they're thinking about growing from, say, 5 people to 10, they want to double their workforce, how do you juggle that worry of, am I going to have enough work for the guys in front of me? How do you balance that? Is it a conversation thing? Is it a rule of thumb thing? Is there like some sort of ideal amount of work you'd like to have in front? Like, how do you actually measure that?
I think that we can just kind of go off past experience. Like I said earlier, that Dad has had, 12 guys work for him for 15, 20 years. So the workload's always kind of the same. He's had a lot of the same builders that pump out the same amount of houses every year.
So it's just having that, it's just being confident and going, well,
yeah,
we've never had quiet periods. We're always a couple of weeks in front. Is that how you handle it? Like, is it always a couple of weeks, or is it a monthly thing, a 2-monthly thing?
I kind of know what's coming up 6 weeks in advance.
6 weeks.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't have a lot of builders that ring me up and say, that quote that you did 3 weeks ago is accepted, start tomorrow. You shouldn't do it like that. It's not good for anyone. It's putting everyone out. And so I generally know what's coming up. I know that our workforce can handle the workload. Our guys can handle it. And if I needed to put on a couple more, I would. And most of last year I had an ad on Seek to put more guys on, but they'd always just work with one of our supervisors. So we have 3 or 4 supervisors. I have a supervisor on every job. And then, a new guy might turn into a supervisor, but he would work under one of my other supervisors for at least 6 months, a year, even if it was a gun. He has to learn our system, learn our detail.
Now, what about, have you ever had an interesting experience where you've just sheeted a whole house and there's a horrible water leak, or someone's forgotten to put something in and you had to rip all this plaster out and start over again?
Yes. Oh, when it rains, some builders want to get this plaster on the wall so quickly, and then the plumber hasn't capped it. So it does happen. It hasn't happened for a while, touch wood, but yeah, it happens. We've had to replace ceilings before, but yeah, hopefully never again. Water's no good.
No,
but
water and plaster don't mix.
They don't, but we do a lot of insurance work with water damage, and that's another thing to our business. And I'm starting to kick up. I've got 1 or 2 insurance builders now that it's all water damage stuff. So, from storm damage and all that. So I've got 2 guys that, are a little bit older, don't want to work 5 days a week anymore. So he's happy with 3 or 4 days, and just to do the maintenance. Yeah, I think you need a maintenance guy. You can't rip your best guy off a job to go do a patch. It's got to take 20 minutes, and he might have to drive for an hour. So we've got a guy that does all that, and he's more than happy to do it.
Now, you mentioned P50 and shadow joints and things like that. What's sort of in right now? What's sort of happening in the world of plastering with desired finishes and things?
Curves. Every single job we're doing, the architect has drawn a curve. I don't know how long it's going to be. It'll be one of those things, like
it's in fashion at the moment.
It's in fashion big time, and they look amazing. They're not always easy to do. So
how do you do it? How do you make plasterboard go round?
So we have to, at tender stage, I have to allow for worst case scenario when I see a curve, because sometimes they go easy and sometimes they don't. And 6mm plaster, sometimes we have to double layer the 6mm plaster for a curved wall. It's expensive. It's like maybe 4 or 5 times more expensive than normal 10mm plaster. So I've got to allow that whole wall to double wrap it, and then you might get to site and be able to do it in 10mm. It takes 2 minutes. But
so it's basically putting multiple layers of plaster.
Yep. So normal gyprock plaster is 10mm. A normal house would be 10mm plaster, and it does bend a little bit. And if you have got a sponge handy and then you're sponging it and you're slowly manipulating
building
the
up
sheet,
the surface to bend and
and
be layered.
If you can wet it, you can slowly manipulate 10mm plaster, but you can manipulate 6mm flexi plaster, they call it, heaps better. But because it's so thin, it shows most of the stud works behind it. So you double wrap it. It's expensive.
And labour intensive.
Yep. Some of them are, especially the internal, like an internal curve. Like an external curve's not too bad because you can kind of work it around. But internal plaster, we snap so many sheets.
Yeah,
and,
I can imagine.
And it's a patience thing with some of these curves. And, so you've got to have the right guys to do it. And it's not for everyone, because some guys just want to bang the sheet on the wall and walk away. So it's art.
It is. It's definitely a craft. And it's definitely one of those trades where, as a builder, a lot of guys, if you seek that feedback and constantly liaise with you guys, it makes it a lot easier for the other trades, because remember, after you, there's another finishing trade, which are the painters as well.
And even a carpenter, he has to bend his skirting around that
Correct.
curve. Yeah, and so the curves are in. A lot of the stuff that we do, Glen Iris, Malvern, those areas, they're keeping, maybe the front 2 rooms of their house and hallway in that Victorian style plaster. So big cornices, big roses, big skirtings, big arcs. And then they'll get to a point of the house where it just goes square set, P50, and it looks really good. I love it.
Yeah.
I wish we could build one down here, but it's not in at Mornington yet. I might bring it in.
That's it. Lead by example. All right, so what's on the cards next for Somerville leading into the future?
It's probably similar to where we're at. We've always talked about, sometimes we've got all these jobs, we go, oh, do we need that one? Because if we do, we're going to have to go a little bit bigger. I think, having around 10 guys is easy. Well, it's not easy, but...
It's optimum.
Yeah. I think if you went to 25, you generally get one guy a week or every second or third day that can't make it in for whatever reason. So you got to rejig your whole morning, rejig your jobs and make those phone calls to the builder. Oh, yeah, he's not going to be in because such and such. And I don't want to make any more of those phone calls.
You're able to manage the business at the moment in its current form, and not having to worry about those extra spot fires that happen in everyday life, which are part of everyone's life. So it's being able to be diverse and adapt, and your current team that you've got, it's that optimum number.
We've got a really good bunch of guys now. So, everything, it's perfect the way it is. Hopefully it stays like this. Look, and my brother, he's just he's been overseas for a bit, and he'll come back into the business probably next week and start working and start helping supervise and just take a little bit more pressure off everyone else. And it's another guy that we can rely on. You just want guys you can rely on,
Yeah, and I think people don't understand as well. Like, you've probably gone above that number to find out that that's through trial and error, that's your perfect number.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think that's great. And I like that you're able to manage old bull, young bull. Your dad's still part of the business. You clearly look up to him and respect him a lot. So I think it's a really nice legacy to be able to continue that moving forward.
Yeah. And like I said, I think he'll always be involved because, he loves plaster as well. And it will probably be an income for him as well for a long time because he created the business. But it is a great dynamic to have him and me both in the business.
Do you ever throw ideas around to him about what you want to do in the future with the business?
And vice versa. And he'll bring up something and then I might disagree and he might bring up something and we probably meet in the middle. So, and it's great with family because you can have these debates and they might get a little bit heated, but only for about 30 seconds and then you're all best mates again.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
So, I don't know how it would go working for, with someone else. They probably got to hold a grudge, but there's no grudges here. And, we've spoken to him about, he was very keen to get the estimator on. So that was kind of the first step of, coming into the technology phase of a business. We still both run paper diaries. I'd rather write everything down than...
Yeah, I love paper diaries.
You have to.
Yeah, they still work.
Yeah, it's so easy. You've got all this stuff in your head at the end of the day. You just sit for 2 minutes in front of, a piece of paper and you jot everything down and then it's all out. And then, there's no excuses to forget stuff. Like I've got an iPad. The new iPads, it's got the pen in that. That pen's still in the case and the iPad's been turned on once or twice. But I'll get to that. I'll get to learning how to do all that. But at the moment...
it's what works though too.
It's what works and it's probably the quickest. But now, having these site meetings with all these builders and that, in town and that, and they've got all their iPads and that with the plans and we can draw up, if he's made a change, he can quickly squiggle, oh yeah, I've changed that wall or that detail there's changed. And then he can just screenshot it, send it to me. And it's like, it's got to be a really great way to keep tabs on meetings and site meetings and help us measure up plaster a little bit easier.
All right. Well, James, it's been really nice sitting here, getting to know you more and hearing about the Somerville Plaster story. So I thank you for coming on to Build Hatch. And if anyone's listening to this, I recommend they go check out your Instagram page and find out some more information about you guys or get into contact with you.
I appreciate that, Aaron. I appreciate you taking an interest in our family company.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on to Build Hatch.
No problem. Thanks, Aaron.
Well, that was another Build Hatch episode with James from Somerville Plaster. As you could tell, James is a very passionate and proud third generational plasterer, and these guys have a very strong presence amongst Melbourne construction. As usual, please check out our Instagram and other socials where you'll be able to learn more about our guests and some of the features of the work that we talk about. Have a great week, and you'll hear me again on the airwaves next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of Build Hatch.
You have experienced a Build Hatch developed production.